This video is brought to you by Heatcraft Refrigeration. Today we got a service call on a walk-in cooler not working. It's like 56 degrees in here and you hear that hissing sound. The compressor's either off on internal bypass or we're low on refrigerant, more than likely is my guess. Nothing's iced up. It's clearly running, temp control's calling. So let's head up to the roof and see what we can figure out. All right, we've got a refrigeration rack here. This is a multiplex rack. This is not a parallel rack. I know a lot of people will make comments saying, I don't work on racks. Why do I keep calling them a rack? That's not a rack. Look, this is a multiplex rack. It means that there's multiple compressors that control multiple circuits on each one. All right, that's all it is. It's not a big deal. Now, actually, on the walk-in cooler, it's not a multiplex because, well, I mean, I guess technically it is. It controls 2 evaporators, but... So this first one is my compressor for the walk-in cooler. It is currently running. 417 PSI on the high side, 80 PSI on the low side. It's not making whatever sound it was making downstairs. I come up onto the roof. The sight glass looks to have something flowing around, kind of moving around inside of it. It's not flashing really, like it kind of is. It's more or less looks like oil or something. It's weird. Okay, so I've got a return air temp. If we look right here, we've got outside air is 106 degrees. Discharge line temp is 205 degrees. That's coming out of this line going up. Actually, no, that's the liquid line. It's up here. Discharge is up in here. And then liquid, but here's the thing I want to show you. Discharge temp is 205 degrees, okay? The liquid line temp is almost the same. That's the liquid line going to the receiver. This other line right here is the other side of the head pressure control valve, and that is lower than the liquid line. So what that means is that that head pressure control valve right there is bypassing the condenser. So this line comes up discharge, okay? Goes into here, goes into the valve and stops. Then it goes through the condenser, out of the condenser, through the other side of the valve, down to the liquid line. And these two lines should not be the same temperature. And they are. That means that head pressure control valve is bypassing right now. So that's not good. So we're actually gonna shut this compressor down right there. That head pressure control valve is bypassing. So again, discharge gas. Yeah, see, we've shut down. We're gonna let the pressures equalize out. Discharge gas comes up, goes over, up, into the condenser, comes over right here. I have to verify that I'm doing this right. So yeah, I was right, and this valve is bypassing. So discharge gas comes up into here, goes through here, and stops at the valve, okay? When it stops at the valve, it's supposed to, unless it's really cold outside, below 180 PSI, then it will go through, and that's what it's doing right now. It's passing through that valve and going directly down to the liquid line. And we know that because 200 degrees, and then this temperature was almost equal, but this temperature, which is the normal flow when it's 100 degrees outside, it should be coming through this condenser, through the valve, then down through the liquid line. I know it's kind of confusing, but basically this head pressure control valve is bypassing and it shouldn't be. So that's a problem. Also, these guys should not be laying on top of that. So I shut it down. We're gonna see if we can get this guy to equalize out. And in fact, what I'm gonna do, we're gonna try to reset. I'm gonna close this. We're gonna try to reset this head pressure control valve because something's causing it to stick. So I'm gonna open the high side into the low side when the compressor's off. I'm gonna go ahead and put this panel back on. Okay, so we're equalizing out the high and the low side, okay? We're trying to make the pressures equalize. We're trying to reset it. I'll probably go ahead and cool off the condenser too. I got a hose over there. We're gonna rinse it off. It doesn't look that dirty, but we're gonna rinse it just to be safe. We're gonna see if we can get that valve to reset. We're probably gonna have to change the head pressure control valve, but let's see if I can get it to make it through the night. So I wet the condenser. So while we're waiting for this head pressure to drop, which it's at 175 right now, 174, the compressor's not running. So again, This is a low ambient valve. This is a valve for when it gets really cold outside. It maintains a set liquid temperature or head pressure, okay? It bypasses at 180 PSI. So as the head pressure gets low, it starts to open and bypass, flood the condenser, send hot discharge gas down into the system, okay? What I think was happening was, I think it was bypassing when it wasn't supposed to, because I could see it in my temperatures. So we're gonna have to change the valve. I'm just trying to see, it's 4:45 in the afternoon and the supply houses are closing in 15 minutes and I'm not gonna make it to one. So if I don't have to open one up, that'd be great. I have some options. I could bypass the valve, but that's a lot of work just to get it running. But anyway, so what I'm doing is cooling it off. We got the head pressure down to 166 PSI, and that's with nothing, right? So we're gonna go ahead and turn this guy back on, and we're gonna see what happens. So it just reset. We're gonna give it a few minutes, let the head pressure build up. It'll take a minute, and it's already building pretty darn high, so it kind of looks like it's still bypassing. We'll give it a minute and let it run. But more than likely, we're gonna have to change that valve tonight. Well, shoot. It's actually operating like it should be right now. So, but we still have a wet condenser, but if you look at it, discharge temp is 158 degrees. The line coming out of the condenser is 112. The liquid line is 110. So that's a good sign. Before, the liquid line was equal to the discharge line, which indicated that the valve is bypassing completely. So, but again, we got to give it some time, let the condenser dry off and see if the valve will stay in the normally open position and not bypassing. So we're gonna let it dry out a little bit and see. We might have reset it. We still got to change that valve. Something's sticky in there. My sight glass also hasn't cleared yet, and so we got to make sure it's not starting to bypass. It could be doing that too, so we got to give it some time. It's very interesting. So the head pressure control valve is still operating properly. Discharge line temp is 166 degrees, and the outlet of the valve is 120, and the liquid line is 118. So we're not bypassing anymore, okay? What happened right now? Something just moved around, but we're not bypassing. The pressures are looking pretty good. It's 106. We have 121 degree condensing saturation temp, so that's not bad. Suction pressure, saturation, we're looking fine. We got a cold suction line. It's much better than when I got here. But the interesting thing is that sight glass is violently flashing right now. It's hard for you guys to see, but it is violently flashing. So I wonder if this thing somehow got stuck in bypass, like it wouldn't close, because it's low, and we know that the condenser's dried out, so it's low on refrigerant. So this morning it was cool. It probably went to bypass, and then when it got warm outside, it couldn't close or something, and it just kept going off on high head pressure, would be my assumption. That's very interesting. But yeah, we're gonna have to change that head pressure control valve, but I think it'll get me going for now, but we gotta put some gas in here. We gotta get the sight glass to clear up and get the liquid level correct in the receiver. And then we're definitely gonna have to change that valve because something's sticking in it, but I think the reason why it opened was because it got cold last night. Even though it's 106 right now, or it's 102 at the moment actually, we're having rubber band weather. It was in the 60s last night, 50s, somewhere in there. So it's really, really big deltas between the nighttime and the daytime, and that's causing some problems. But yeah, this guy, let's see if I can get you in here so you can see this. It's flashing really good, and I can see the condenser. You guys kind of really can't see it, but I can see it. It's dry. The water that's dripping is coming from the other area. And the top, this trough right here holds water. That's what we're seeing dripping. But yeah, I'll say that we actually know that this system has leaks in the evaporator. The customer's been nursing it along for a really long time, not wanting to change the evaporator coils. The last time we put gas in this was not too long ago, less than like a month ago. So it's never been this quick. So I think we've got some bigger leaks now. They're probably getting bigger. So the customer's gonna have to make some decisions. So all I'm doing for now is I'm gonna put some gas in it, and we're gonna clear up the sight glass, see how low it is. and then add the rest of the flooded charge. I've got my thermal imaging camera so we can check the liquid level in the receiver and see where it's at too. So I'm gonna get some gas in here and just get the sight glass cleared first. So if we get the sight glass cleared above the bypass pressure of 180 PSI and we're at 300 PSI, we know that we're just clearing the sight glass for normal operation, and then I will add the flooded charge after that. Downstairs at the van, I weighed this drum, so now I know I can just add refrigerant. When I'm all done, I can weigh it and find out how much I use. This is 404A refrigerant, so I've already purged it. We're gonna go ahead and add some to the low side, slowly, and just start to pay attention to that sight glass and make sure that it clears. It did not take much to clear it. You can clearly see that thing is nice and clear now, okay? So that is the normal operating charge if it didn't have a head pressure control valve and require extra refrigerant flow when it floods the condenser, okay? So if we didn't have that head pressure control valve, what gas is in there right now would operate the system properly. But because we do, at nighttime, when the temperature drops, that head pressure control valve naturally bypasses as the system pressure gets below 180, and it tries to simulate a warm day. But it was simulating a warm day when it was over 100 degrees, so something was wrong. So that's what I think. I think that there's something stuck in the system. The valve's just got gunk in it. There's nothing wrong with the valve per se. It's more or less just contaminated system probably. And basically it opened last night and tried to flood, and it probably made it through the night, but then when it tried to close this like mid-morning, 10 or 11 o'clock, it couldn't close, and then it probably was just going off on internal bypass. I have a feeling that sound that I heard was internal bypass downstairs. Funny thing is right after I turned the camera off, it stopped making that sound. But yeah, that's our normal operating parameters. All right, I've got the king valve front seated, so it's pushed all the way in, and it's shutting off the flow coming out of the receiver, okay? Now, I am bypassing the low pressure control by putting a screwdriver under the bellows so that way it won't shut off prematurely, and I'm controlling the shut off right now. There we go. Okay. So we're sitting at 7 PSI, we're shut down. I just wanted to make sure we got majority of the gas out. Now let's go check the liquid level in that receiver. All right, if we look at the receiver, we don't really see much of a temperature change. Not very much at all. Maybe something at the bottom, but just slight. And what it is we need to heat that receiver up. So we need to take a heat producing device, very carefully warm the receiver up without overheating it, because it does have pressure relief valves right here. So you don't want to overheat it, but we need to warm it up, and then we'll clearly be able to feel the liquid level of the receiver, either with our fingers or we can see it with that. So I'm gonna heat it up real quick, a couple passes, just get it warm, and then you'll see the difference and you'll clearly be able to see the liquid level in the receiver. Whatever heat producing device you use, you have to be careful because you are heating up a pressurized vessel, okay? Proceed with caution. Don't do this if you are not trustworthy of your skills and knowing what's going on here, okay? So now we're gonna take this guy and we're gonna start at the top and we're gonna scroll down. We're gonna scroll down, we're going down, and all of a sudden, look at the bottom of that receiver. So basically, right here, and I should be able to feel it with my hands too. There's a temperature change right about here, right here. So the liquid level when it's pumped down is currently right there. Yep, currently right there. You can see where the temperature change happens. And then up here is just vapor. So down there, you can see it's kind of orangish color. You can actually, with the thermometer, see, oh, this is on centigrade right now, but you can see, let's see, right now, it's at 106, and then as I go up, all of a sudden right there, 112, 114, and then it gets higher and higher and higher, okay? So our liquid level's right here. Now, here's the deal. This system, the maximum amount of refrigerant you can put into it is basically 3/4 of the liquid line receiver when it's pumped down. You don't want to put any more. You always want to have that storage buffer to leave room for expansion, okay? Because if you fill up that vessel 100%, it's a gas. As it gets hot, it could expand, you know, you could run into problems. It could rupture the vessel. That's why they have pressure relief devices, actually. So, and also, do you see down here? You see how there's like oil? This cap right here is leaking. The valve stem is leaking in here, so I had to put the cap on to keep it, so it's kind of leaking out a little bit. But we are gonna put in the maximum amount of refrigerant into the system. So we're gonna get the liquid level up to about right here, okay? We're gonna fill this guy up to there, and we are going to talk to the customer about repairing the leaks. We're also gonna come back because it's been a long time since we've actually looked for the leaks on here, because we've known for a long time that they have leaks in the evaporators, but it's been a very long time since we've really gone through. Maybe there's more leaks, who knows? So I'm gonna go ahead and add some refrigerant. We're gonna get the liquid level when it's pumped down from here all the way up to here, and then we know it has the maximum amount of refrigerant in it. All right, we're almost there. If you look at the thermal imaging camera, turn the flash off. Look at the thermal imaging camera. As I go up, all of a sudden the receiver gets lighter and lighter as it gets towards the top. So it's kind of hard, but you guys get the gist of it. You can see it get lighter right up there. So basically, the liquid level at the moment is right about here, which I'm pretty confident that's more than enough gas for now, because it's kind of hard to explain. I'll explain in the closing words, but filling it up to the 3/4 mark is usually overkill, like usually way too much gas. So this should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and open the system back up and let it run. We're gonna be back to do leak checks, and this customer needs to make some serious decisions. This receiver is totally rusting out. Look at this one. That's nice. Look at that. What good is that paint doing? It's just flaking off these things. But this one, my walk-in cooler, man, that liquid level, I mean, that receiver is just trash. We are operating. We can clearly see we have a clear sight glass, so that's a good sign, okay? System pressures, let's see, my ambient temperature outside right now is 98 degrees. We should have no more than 30 degrees over ambient. Don't even need to have that much. So 108, what did I say? 98. 108, 118, 108, 118, 128 is the max, okay? And we're at 121 degree on our saturation temperature. Now listen, you don't charge a system to 30 degrees over ambient, okay? But you can use it as a rule of thumb. Most refrigeration systems will never see more than 30 degrees over ambient. Outside air versus condenser saturation or liquid saturation temp, okay? You typically don't ever want to see more than 30 degrees, but that is not a charging metric. I can't stress that enough, okay? It's just one of the variables you're gonna look at. So, I know that we're not running over what we should be for our head pressure, okay? Suction saturation seems about right, 30 degrees. It's still pulling down. It's probably in the high 40s in there right now, okay? Let's look at our temperatures and our head pressure control valve. Discharge temp is 166 degrees. Don't need to worry about that. Okay, and the other two are the same, essentially, 118, 116. That's good, okay? Remember, before, this liquid temp was equal to our discharge temp, which is a big no-no when it was really hot outside, because that meant the head pressure control valve was bypassing. Now, it's very interesting that once I got it to stop bypassing, I shut the system down, equalized out the pressures, cooled down the condenser, got it to stop doing whatever it was doing, and now it's working right. But there's still something sticky in that valve, I'm sure. Something needs to work its way out, and the valve more than likely needs to be replaced. But we also, when I did that, I found out it was low on refrigerant. So that's the catalyst that set this whole situation off. Was it was low on refrigerant, it got cold outside, the head pressure dropped below 180 PSI, and the head pressure control valve bypassed. And then as the temperature outside in the mid-morning, probably 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, came up, the head pressure rose above the 180 PSI, but the valve was sticking and it wouldn't close. And that's what led us to them calling me out here. I would have been here anyways because it was also low on refrigerant eventually, but this time it was stuck in bypass. Now, when I got here down at the evaporators, it was making a really loud hissing sound, and I said it's either internal bypass or low charge. By the time I turned off the camera, it stopped making that sound, and I came up here, the compressor was running, you know, going off on high head pressure. So I think it was going off on internal bypass. So they're gonna be lucky if that compressor's not damaged too. The condenser didn't really look dirty, but I rinsed it off when I was trying to reset the head pressure control valve anyways, and we got it running. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my stuff. We're gonna come back when we're not on overtime. I'll make sure there's no giant leaks downstairs, but I don't think there is. All right, it's about 45 degrees in here. It's almost down to temp. It's gonna be a little bit longer. These coils, there's multiple leaks in both sides, but they were always small leaks, and then this drain pan is completely rotted out. Those are all the aluminum just deteriorating. So, but I wonder how big these leaks are now. They might have gotten bigger, so we'll be back. But 45 is good. It was in the high 50s, almost 60 when I got here, so. All right, we are getting ready to change out this equipment. I'm here, this is Sunday, but we're potentially gonna do this on Monday. So I just came out today. We're kind of going over my drawings right here. I was just verifying that the new coil is gonna be the same. Looks to be the same, everything looks good with that. So the new coils, the drain is potentially gonna have to be moved down just a little bit, but that's fine. Shouldn't be a problem there. Everything looks like it's good except for the line set. The line sizes are different. We already came out and changed the liquid line receiver, bolted it on some unistrut, changed the dryer, and changed the head pressure control valve. So we got that part done. Everything looks good here. I haven't seen the job since they did it, but this looks perfect. They did a good job. Sight glass dryer, good to go. That's just nylon. Okay, so this part, we did this in stages. That way we could do this, knock this stuff out, and then when we come back, we're just doing coils. They did a good job installing the new head pressure control valve. You can see all we could get was a 7/8 valve, so we had to bush it down, but that's fine, all good. So yeah, everything is looking good. We're ready to change these coils out. All right, we got a whole crew here today. So I got guys recovering gas on the roof. We're just starting to get ready, sanding the line set. Once they get it recovered, then we'll break it free and start pulling the coil down. They got it all recovered, and all that we're doing now is getting it set up for nitrogen to flow in through the high side and out the low, so that way we can braze in the coils when we're ready. All right, we got our two coils, one's stacked up against the side over there, and one's right here, so we're gonna get them unbolted. And that was a challenge, but we got the new coils put up. The holes for the most part lined up. So now we're working on getting electrical hooked up and refrigeration hooked up. And then up in the attic, there's a liquid line solenoid valve. Will's up there getting ready to cut that out of the picture because we don't need that anymore. Always a good sign when there's nitrogen in there. So we're slowly bleeding it out, and then we'll figure out the bushings and couplings that we need to make that work. There's a lot of moving parts to this install. I got people everywhere, so I'm not able to film all of it, but I can't stress enough. Working with the EVs, raise with nitrogen as much as possible. I realize it's not always practical, but he's getting ready to cut out the liquid line solenoid valve on top of the walk-in. We got the nitrogen flowing. We are getting ready to turn this on. Now we ran a comm line between the coils. We'll strap it up in a minute, but we use shielded cable so the coils communicate, and make sure you only ground one end. So this is the end that we grounded. We took the shielded wire, and then on this end we just cut it off, and it's not grounded at all. So now the two coils will communicate. This will be the primary right here, and this one will control everything. All right, and this is the beauty of Intelligen, is we should just be able to do everything from this one. I believe the expert pin is all 9s. Configure from evaporator, yes. Discovering equipment. 2 evaporators found, continue. We're gonna change it to cooler 1A. Address of the other one is gonna be cooler 1B. Primary evaporator is cooler 1A, that's this one, that's correct. Condensing unit wired, no. United States. Pacific time zone, daylight savings, I think it's yes. Today is 2024, and it is December 23rd, and it is 11:56 a.m. We're R448A. There we go. EXV Corel, air defrost, time defrost, box temp 35, start system. All right, now we're monitoring. Evaporator fans just kicked on both coils. So yeah, we programmed everything from this one, even though that one over there, you know, because when we did the comm line, and again, we'll fix this conduit, but the comm line connects the two. So they're up and running. Now they're gonna go start charging the unit up on the roof. One other thing that I did was set it up for dual coil termination, so it looks at both temp sensors to make sure that you know, one's not iced up, because especially since one is by a door, they could ice up. So yeah, we're good on that. Now we got to get it out of service mode. All right, cool. This guy's already running. The EXV's opened up. I got a technician up top. He's charging the system right now. Coil temp superheats at 5 degrees. It's set for about 7, so it's adjusting accordingly. But yeah, both of them are running, so now we're just kind of in cleanup mode. One thing I realized was I had set it up for dual coil, and then I was getting an error message. So I got to call the factory, but I turned the dual coil off because I think dual coil means that you're going to have a probe in each side when it says dual coil. And because I was getting aux 1A and aux 1B error codes, but I don't have an aux probe. So I think dual termination means both sides. So that's good to know too. So I just turned that off, and then we're going back into here now. But yeah, that'll be it. We're gonna get it back up and running. This thing's just about down to temp too, so the customer's gonna be stoked. The guys are taking the gauges off on the roof, and all is well. When I approach these service calls, it's always about getting the customer operating as soon as possible. So we knew the system had leaks. I'd been trying to get them to replace the equipment for a while. It finally reached the point that the leak rate was so high that they had no other choice, okay? So we ordered new equipment. It did take a little bit to get the new equipment because these coils were a little bit different than what normal distributors stock, okay? You know, sometimes the distributors, if they don't sell a lot of one particular piece of product, they won't stock it. And I wanted Intelligen equipped evaporator coils in the smaller BTU footprint. So, you know, we had to special order them, and that's fine. It took some time. But in the meantime, we topped off the charge a few times. The customer understood. They saw the value in going with the Intelligen coils because the installation was a little bit easier. The setup was easier. And for the most part, the troubleshooting and normal operation, I mean, it still works the same. It still cools the same as a non-Intelligen equipped, but you've got the efficiency of the Intelligen, right? And you know, I know some people are hesitant to jump on what they consider new technology, right? Intelligen's been around for a long time. This is an iteration of, you know, several different smart evaporator setups. I personally like these. In my opinion, it really is about the installation. As long as you're installing and understanding what's going on. And you guys saw too, you know, I'm not like a guru, right? I just am very comfortable with them. So I wasn't 100% sure when I set up that dual coil termination. But you know, deductive reasoning kind of led me to realize that the dual coil isn't looking at both evaporators like I thought. It's looking at both sides of a single evaporator is what it's doing, which is actually a really cool feature. And in the future, we may set that up by adding extra sensors to each side of the coil. So, because in some situations I run into customers where maybe it's located by a door and they're constantly leaving it open, and you'll tend to see like one side freeze up. Well, setting it up for dual coil termination could really help to solve those problems, okay? So back to the beginning, this video you know, started with a low charge situation. We have to evaluate everything. So once we got to the bottom of the low charge, we realized that the head pressure control valve was kind of sticky. There was no reason why it shouldn't be. And so then, you know, we got it up and running. I reset the head pressure control valve by equalizing out the system pressures. And then it luckily started working, and it worked until we replaced the equipment. You know, so we went ahead and replaced the head pressure control valve, changed the dryer, put in a new receiver, and replaced both of the evaporator coils, and all has been well. It's been a couple weeks since we did this install, and customers been stoked. I've been back there several times to work on other equipment, just going to follow up, making sure everything's good. So far, so good. We also, in this upgrade, we converted the system to 448A, okay? We have a lot of new regulations here in California. One of the ones, January 1st, is the inability to sell non-recycled virgin refrigerant 404A essentially, okay? So any 404A that we use from this point has to be recycled, cleaned up and reused, because they're trying to limit the import of new virgin refrigerant. Now stay tuned, because this will start sweeping across the rest of the country, and of course California. This is on the federal chopping block, the 404A ban, but not for a very long time. But of course, in the great state of California, we like to be ahead of the game with everything. So, we get to throw wrenches into this chaos that we have. So anyways, whatever, it is what it is. We have to deal with the 404A stuff, so we converted this one to 448A. Now we are going to see some problems with the 404A conversions in the future, like reach-in coolers and ice machines. That's going to be a little bit more challenging, but on walk-ins and walk-in freezers, it's a pretty straightforward changeover, considering that 404A compressors already use polyester oil. So we're pretty good on that part. That's one of the main hurdles when you're converting to a lot of these new refrigerants, is you have to have polyester oil. So when we're dealing with like R22 replacements and stuff, that's some of the problems that everybody ran into, because they were still using mineral oil on a lot of the R22 systems. But with 404A, we're already using polyester oil, so easy peasy, right? So overall, the installation went good. The equipment matched up to the same stuff, and all was well. And customer, like I said, is super stoked, and I was happy with the easy installation that we had setting up the Intelligen controls. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Great way to help support the channel. I'm available on almost all social media platforms under HVACR videos. Follow, like, comment, whatever you want to do. If you haven't already, I'd also encourage you, if you're interested in supporting the channel, to visit my website, hvacrvideos.com, where we have merchandise available. We actually have the hat that I'm wearing right now. We have a flat bill hat, dad hat, which is like a slouchy fit. The flat bill is a snapback, but it's also a flex fit hat. The dad hat is not a snapback. It is not a flex fit. This is for people with really short foreheads. Doesn't fit me. It doesn't quite look right. But some people do like these. And then last but not least, we also have the HVACR beanie, okay? Great way to help support the channel, all available on my website, hvacrvideos.com. A couple other ways to help support the channel if you're interested in doing so. The easiest way to support this channel is literally just watch these videos from beginning to end. That really is the easiest way. You can also support the channel via PayPal, Patreon, or YouTube channel memberships, of which there's links in the show notes of this video for those methods. Last but not least, if you're interested in purchasing any tools, you can go to TrueTechTools.com, where I have an affiliate program set up with them. If you use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, you get a discount at checkout, and then I get a small commission from that. So another great way to help support the channel. If you haven't, like I mentioned in the beginning, follow me on the other social media platforms, and please share the channel, share my social media stuff. It helps the channel to grow. This is kind of I'm not a digital marketer. I'm not a person that's good at social media. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm winging all of this, literally all of this. I'm just kind of, let's see what happens, making changes. So I'm not a professional at anything. So any help that I can get from you to grow the platform, to grow the channel, share whatever you can, it'd be very much appreciated. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so very much, and we will catch you on the next one.